Hey, everybody, welcome to Breakfast All Day. Alonso here with Matt and Christy. This is technically a TV thing, but a lot of people asked us to talk about it, and it seems to be very of the moment. So we are going to have a chat about the new Netflix special, Bo Burnham Inside. Matt's going to try and break that one down for us.
First of all, we've covered movies that are on streaming services before, so
right. But is this a movie or is it a long TV show?
It's a special. All right, so like everybody, Bo Burnham was under quarantine for a year. Unlike a lot of us, he spent a lot of time creatively filming one project, working one project, a comedy special that would be what he was doing while he was by himself. And as you might expect from Bo Burnham, you get some terrific songs, some very sharp comedy, some very funny stuff, sometimes riffing on the very thing that he's doing. It's kind of everything you could hope for. And then in what would be the third act in a regular movie, it takes this really serious turn. And it gets much more raw than I think I expected, than you might expect at all. And it's great. It's this terrific movie. I think it is. I mean, it's certainly, in my mind, it's as much of a movie as This Is Not a Film. It's, this is the tracking somebody who is creative and kind of exercising their creative muscles over the course of a year, and you see, okay, what's occurring to him, what's popping up for him to make fun of and have fun with, and then there gets to a point where he kind of just can't take it anymore. And I'd be fascinated to see what didn't make it into the movie, because I felt like he is fairly honest about some of the stuff he does put in. I really was impressed with this. There's some stuff that I thought, yeah, it does get a little self-indulgent sometimes. But for the most part, I found this really not just fun from a comedy special, but I think this is more than a comedy special. I think that this is a really interesting kind of thoughtful meditation on what it means to be with people and be by yourself, and is just talking to people on the internet enough. And I was moved by this. What do you guys think?
No, I was gonna say, so I was dazzled, and I was pushing you guys to see it. I really, really wanted to watch it, and I really, really wanted you guys to watch it once I did. And it's extraordinary from a creative perspective, because while there is like a through line to the songs, and there's a sound, and there's like a consistent theme to a lot of them, and there's a lot of Weird Al to the wordplay and to the tone of his voice. But there's also like a depth and an edge, and as Matt said, a darkness that is increasingly intriguing. And the way he uses that space, it looks like it's like a house in his backyard, right? It looks like it's not, right, because it's got like a little kitchen.
Right, it's the detached unit.
Like it's like an extra guest house in his backyard, whatever. It's like one giant room, and then there's a little bitty kitchen, and he has crammed it with equipment, with lights and with his keyboard and microphones. Sequencers. And and the way he plays with the space and makes it feel large and makes it feel small and finds every corner of it to explore with whatever song it is that he's performing is constantly alive and thrilling and surprising. And I was never bored, and I was always excited to see what was he going to do next. The cynic in me, the skeptic in me, kept trying to peek behind the curtain, right? And I kept wondering, like, how much of this is true? How much of this is a true expression of his experience, and how much of this is he's a performer,
right,
putting on an act of sorts that is not untrue fundamentally. It may truly be an expression of the depression he experienced, the isolation he experienced, because how could he not, and how could we all not? Part of me was watching it going, ooh, there's a really slow push on that funny feeling. The song that he's playing on the guitar, slow,
Right.
slow push in.
And he does that in a few
slow
places.
push out. And I'm like, is he really shooting all this himself? And then I'm thinking like, okay, there's like gotta be remote stuff that like allows you like a wah-wah pedal situation, right? Where you could like slowly control.
but
it.
also
You can see him changing the lighting with his feet.
That you can see, yes, but like,
Right,
can
but
you
I-
control the camera zoom remotely on yourself? I don't know.
So yes, sometimes. So there's a couple different things from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
Yes, depending on how proficient you are with computers, you could set up a script to have something with an auto zoom.
Okay.
Do that just timing wise. You could set the timing up ahead of time that it just does it. And if you're shooting it like 4K or higher than that, you could potentially do that in post.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Okay. That makes sense to me.
So,
Thank you. So I had these questions like that about, but clearly he's crammed this room with equipment.
Sure.
And so everything he's doing, you know, he's
Also-
operating it on his own.
Sorry,
What's that?
we have an appearance.
Oh yeah. Baxter's right there in
oh.
the back, in the corner. That's Baxter.
Oh, doggies.
Yeah. I
So-
am not operating here remotely with my foot. I really
I want to piggyback on what Christy's saying because absolutely I felt the same way, and I think the piece is encouraging you to do that.
Okay.
Because like there is a sequence where he pretends that he is a video game and he pretends to also be the person playing the game, and part of the game is press X to cry. So like he'll just start crying on command, and so then later when he seems like he's losing it and getting more upset about stuff, it's like, we've seen you cry on demand in this special. So like, how are we supposed to feel now? Like that this is the real thing. And I'm not, none of this is bad or wrong, but I think this is the kind of thing that like Sandra Bernhard's Without You, I'm Nothing seeks to kind of like autopsy, you know, when a performance artist, and in this case, it's not even a performance artist portraying a thing that happened in the past, you're ostensibly seeing it in real time.
Yeah.
You were watching him have this sort of like slow meltdown over the course of the pandemic, again, as so many of us had in one way or another. That it's hard to be like, am I supposed to be buying this? Am I supposed to be understanding this as performance?
As truth, or as absolute emotional truth.
Exactly.
And does it matter? Does it matter either way?
Exactly. It reminded me of in Mouse, the graphic memoir. Art Spiegelman talks about going to his therapist, and he's talking about his writer's block. He's like, why do I even bother? Samuel Beckett said, every word is like an unnecessary stain on silence and nothingness. And then he pauses and he goes, on the other hand, he said it, you know? And so with this, it's like, I'm watching,
right? He's got that whole bit about like, why doesn't everybody just shut the fuck up?
He's constantly reversing on himself and calling himself out for being a hypocrite. And so, so when it gets more emotional, it is emotional. And at the same time, it's like, wait, is this still the trickery part? Or is this now have the veils been lifted, or are you pretending to lift the veils to create art? And look, the fact that it raises this many questions is interesting and good. I'm not knocking it for that, but I'm just saying, I think when you're talking about this and thinking about it, you need to be very clear that you are watching somebody who is giving a performance and then who has edited that performance. And so what is real and what is not it's not necessarily good or bad that he does it, but you should be thinking about that.
There's a couple of points in that I want to address, though, in that, yes, first and foremost, you absolutely are seeing the stuff he chose to put up.
Right.
Make no mistake, right? Like, and I'm sure that there's stuff that he chose not to, even film, right? Much less put in the final edit. What I will say though is when especially that last song that cuts from him and his unfinished song at the beginning, and then what he looks like as he's wrapping up, I think that there's an energy in him in the early stuff that has kind of been beaten out of him by the time we're seeing the shoots that are later in the year. And I don't know that he's a good enough actor to pull off the subtlety of like his shoulders are more stooped and he's not smiling as much, right? Like he's got that look, like a lot of us got like, I've just kind of fucking given up. Right. And yes, we could talk about that, but there's, to me, like there's a look in the eye that happens. And I felt like that mindset was coloring what we're getting out of him creatively later, right? Like that later in the film, you get the whole apology thing for the earlier stuff that's problematic, is an interesting choice just in thinking about, man, where's your head at that's on your mind enough that you're going to cut, that you're going to shoot and put something together that is that complicated to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, he's apologizing for a thing that he's just shown you, but he still shows it to you. You know,
no, he's apologizing. He's apologizing for the stuff in his career when he said shitty stuff that he used to get blowback for.
Sure. Okay. Right.
Right. And and it does have an arc, right? Because like the perky poppiness of like the first song content does give way to quieter and deeper and more introspective content as the film goes on. I wanted to, again, I love this movie, as you'll see from my number, but I was never able to give myself over to it fully. Like I was constantly cognizant of the artifice of it.
Yeah.
But there's such truth in what he's expressing, and he's hitting it from a variety of angles in a way that does explore what our collective isolation has been like. And so I think that's helpful in that way.
Right. And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, to me, like, somebody who is showing you that stuff through a very artificial process, to me, doesn't mean that he's not still feeling it.
Right.
Right. And
I was, yeah.
Right. And I bought into it. There's some places that I think it was a little much, and some places that I would have, I don't necessarily agree with what he did, but for the most part, I thought that this was surprisingly open, and it made me constantly think, like, God, I hope somebody was in that bigger house with him, because one of the things he kind of looks back on, and I think, and I kept thinking about this as I was watching it, I was like, I know that I'm fairly sure I would not have survived living on my own during this last 14 months, right? And I literally would not have survived. And I'm gonna add that if you are the type of person that is, thinking about harming yourself, by all means, please contact somebody, reach out. So, to me, like, locked in your room by yourself for that long, like, that's my worst fucking nightmare.
He does talk about suicide, and they do include like I think it's wannatalkaboutit.com at the end of it. So I mean, this gets into some darker material, and if that's not the thing that you're down for right now, then maybe think about whether or not you want to watch this. But I do think this is the kind of thing that people are going to look back as this interesting sort of artifact of 2020 and the way that artists have responded to it. But I would really recommend that anybody who watched this and dug it, go back and watch the Sandra Bernhard 1991 concert film, Without You I'm Nothing, because it's very much about deconstructing what performance pieces like this are and what they say, and how performers are presenting versions of themselves on stage and as characters. And I think it's an interesting double feature.
I love the music here. I love the places that his songs go that you don't expect, right? Yeah. Because they'll sound really light and kind of winky and like knowing and ironic, but then like a minor key will come in and it will take a turn in terms of the story that he's telling. I mean, one of
the sock puppet song is my favorite one.
I like that one. I was going to say, I love White Woman's Instagram, because even
also,
that,
oh my God, that's so good.
It's mocking a very basic part of society, but then it takes a turn when he starts talking about how, Mom, I miss you, and so many people do that. That's so common, right. And it's a cliche, but the substance he finds within that instinct, again, I think is interesting that he's going to explore that. That Funny Feeling is a song that people, I think, have been talking about a lot as far as a favorite on Twitter. That's his song with the acoustic guitar. And again, that's like listing off things that are easy to make fun of, and then it goes to places that are more serious. And that he's able to do that, find that balance over and over again in ways that are so smart and so clever and also so catchy melodically is really impressive.
No, I think if eighth grade confirmed him as a really sharp observer of changing society and just of humanity, I think this absolutely bolsters that reputation.
One of the unfortunate side effects of this movie is I felt like I could hear how much auto-tuning was going on with him singing wise. And then to the point that, and then there's a moment where it's like, man, he sounds just like Weird Al in a lot of this. And then I was like, oh my God, was Weird Al using auto tuning before everybody could tell that that's what it was? Oh no.
Anyway, I
Tools
really
of the
loved
trade,
it.
Matt.
I'm glad we watched this. I really loved it. I'm glad you guys watched it. So thank you. I'm giving it a 9.
I said 7.8, but I will be returning to this and thinking about this, and so I may like it more, I may like it less, but I'm definitely not going to just walk away and forget that I saw it.
I give it an 8.
Okay, 8.3 is our number. Bo Burnham Inside is on Netflix right now.
Yes, it is. Thanks for watching, you guys. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. A lot of cool stuff going on over there. With the launch of Loki this week, we have a couple more episodes of the extraordinary season of Handmaid's Tale, and of course, we'll be talking about for Off the Menu this month, looking at an indie that I think a lot of people missed, starring Henry Golding, called Monsoon. It too is streaming on Netflix, and we'll be reviewing that exclusively for our subscribers. So that's at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We are turning a corner to the final days of Marvel Mondays. Christy, what's up next?
Infinity War.
Woo!
Infinity War, which is still shocking. Like, it's coming. The snap is coming. And I still found myself like, oh, no, not Groot. No. And when Spidey gets it and he says, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Like, I've cried. And Nick's like, are you crying? I'm like, yes. I don't want Spidey to die. Like, I know he's got more movies coming up, but still, like, this is a sad moment.
It's not like he's Batman's parents.
It goes places, that movie, for sure. All right. Thanks, everybody. Listen, take care of yourselves. Have a good week. And we'll see you next time. Bye.